Welcome to MCU Mondays here on yet another Monday, surprisingly enough. I am your host, Chris. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Debbie. Debbie, how are you tonight?
I'm good. It's cold again in Indiana. We had 70 plus degrees Saturday and just went downhill after that.
The weather just keeps jackknifing back and forth. I think it's drunk. David, down below us, often we are joined by David. David and Debbie are both members, as am I, of the Geek News Now community, geeknewsnow.net. Check it out. It's your home for all things geeky. And David is also, he runs the people that make the articles, right?
Correct.
And
Literary
also
Legion, yep.
the Literary Legion. I couldn't, the alliteration. It's perfect. I think it'd be more memorable. But he also runs the Thursday night Star Wars show, the Geek News Now Cantina Happy Hour, and that's pretty awesome. I've been on a couple episodes so far. What is the topic this week?
Episode 1, Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace.
Starting the prequel trilogy.
The prequel run.
I'll
have to try and
Star Wars.
The best? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Everyone's favorite character, everyone's favorite Sith, Jar Jar Binks.
Darth Jar Jar. Well, on that note, we are introduced to our special guest, the last panelist down there in the corner, Tommy Sinbazo.
Hi, Internet. Hello,
Happy to have
Scottish
you
people.
See if any of them are watching. Yes, maybe. Yeah, there we go. All right, and we'll have more people tuning in as the show gets going, I'm sure. But Tommy Sinbazo is our special guest today. Tommy is a stand-up comedian local to the Baltimore, D.C. area.
And then I'm regional.
Regional.
I'll say regional. I just did shows in Vegas last year,
Hey-o.
Utah.
Well, we're going to find out.
That's my list.
Just those other two. But still, Vegas, that's pretty awesome. We're going to learn more about Tommy, what he does, what kind of shows he does, virtual reality comedy. What is it? He knows what's up with that. We're going to talk all about it. And then we're going to find out his thoughts on Marvel, the MCU, not just the MCU, everything Marvel. So we're going to go all over the place with it. We're going to look at some of the trailers for Doctor Strange coming up and Moon Knight. We're going to get his thoughts on all that. We're going to talk about all this stuff. And I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great show. But before we do that, we got to have our theme song. So let's get that going.
Theme song guy.
Oh, yeah! It's MCU Mondays on Geek News Now. We're talking about Marvel, Geek News Now. Movies and TV, the comics, news, opinions, breaking news and reviews. It's Geek News Now. It's hilarious.
Yes, epic. Thank you. Woo. Do the editing on those as well as
And the singing. I could tell that was you. Singing.
We like to have some fun. Something grand and orchestral. Yeah, why not? So anyway, yes, Tommy Sinbazo, our special guest today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, first of all, we are on a show for Geek News Now, MCU Mondays. What qualifications do you hold as a geek? You know, what?
Just being bullied every day of my life.
Absolutely.
No, yeah, I've always been like a geek and nerd. I'm a maker. I build stuff. I'm ADHD, neurodivergent with like a little dash of autism. So I just build things. I fall down rabbit holes. I've made guitars, but I don't play guitar. That sort of stuff. My future I used to LARP. I LARPed for 11 years. I do leatherworking, metalworking, woodworking, some airbrushing. I also produce I'm the Laugh Finder podcast, where it's me and 5 other comics and an NPR radio guy, and we play Pathfinder. And it's great because we have to teach this NPR guy about things like docking, hentai. We took him to his first KatsuCon to perform, and he was like, "What is this hentai?" And we had to be like, "Oh, well, buckle in." and we were at a barbecue joint and showing him stuff, and he was like, "Oh my, oh."
And we're friends on Facebook back from when I used to do some comedy stuff, and I see you every once in a while posting stuff. When you say build stuff, just for people that might not know, I mean, we're talking about like steampunk. Like, I've seen the glove that you made. It was almost like an infinity gauntlet.
Yeah,
like,
I built a fireball, a steampunk fireball gauntlet that would shoot a golf ball sized fireball like 30 feet. And that was because I was.
Did they let that into the cons?
Well, they wouldn't know. I wouldn't tell people.
Right.
They would just,
Yeah.
it looks like a steampunk piece, and I'm like, boom, and shoot like a fireball. All it really did was just burn blankets in my house. That's the only thing.
but it did it well.
I had to use. Basically, it was a electronic cigarette that I hooked up to a momentary switch, a switch that's only active when you're pushing the button, and a 9-volt battery. And I could screw on vape cartridges that I'd pull the cotton out of. So it just had a heating element in a tube. And then you just put flash cotton and flash paper in there. And it would, you push the button and it would shoot it out. And I took it to Denny and Lee's, which is a famous magic shop here in Maryland, to show Denny, which Lee is a pig. Literally like his pet pig that would just roam this magic warehouse.
Oh, he's literally a pig.
It was a literal pig. But I took it to him and I was like, and he's like, I think he passed away recently, or he might still be alive and doesn't like that I'm saying he's dead. But I went over there. He was this old guy, and I was like, "Sir, I built this. It uses flash paper and flash cotton." He was like, "Oh, let me look at it." And he pushes the button, and it shot a fireball onto a display of magic books. And he was like,
It works.
"Get out of my shop!"
And I hope everyone was paying attention, because Tommy did just give you instructions on how to create a fireball launcher, so you can do it yourself now.
And it's on YouTube now, so it's all over.
Go back and watch the recording if that's
Go
something.
and watch it, kids. The little thing. Download a little thing called the Anarchist Cookbook.
Oh Lord. You'll have a black SUV sitting out in front of your house for 2 or 3 weeks, wondering what it's doing.
Yeah, or watch old episodes of MacGyver and learn how to make Drano bombs.
There you go.
Every now and then, when that episode comes in, you'll see a spike in the nudes the nudes. I get all my news from Pornhub. I don't know if I told you guys this.
Well, you know what? That's actually, I used to, back in the earlier days of the internet, where I would actually go to those websites just to find, because you have other people that are actually comment in this porn video, but then you'll find the guy that does a full page-length review of the Transformers movie, and it's the most in-depth and comprehensive. It has nothing to do with porn. He just decided this is where more people are going to get eyes on this. Nobody reads my blog, but everyone watches porn. And so you'd find, and now I don't think it doesn't, now there's just porn everywhere. So
I used to look at Pornhub for the articles, and man,
exactly, that's what I'm saying. I did that for the article, and then
how am I going to get movie reviews now?
Yes, that's the place to go.
Yeah, but I build all kinds of stuff. I'll get a bug in my head, and then I can't get it out until I build it, and I just build stuff. And then we do Die Laughing Productions, which is another comedy troupe where we travel up and down the East Coast, and in 5 separate countries, we do these comedy murder mysteries, and we perform for the troops and everything. So if they ever need a prop, I'll just build the prop and stuff.
Yeah, so the comedy murder mystery, that is something that you put on with 98 Rock and Eric Woodworth and
most of the guys like Justin Schlegel, Rob Mayer, Joe Robinson, Eric Woodworth, Sean Gabbert. So it's most of the people on 98 Rock and Eric Woodworth and I. And then it started out as something that I knew Joe Robinson in passing, and he was like, "We're gonna try to do this murder mystery thing. Do you have any interest in it?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll try it out." And then it was such a success that, that was 6 years ago that we started doing it. And Rob Mayer, fantastic comedian, Rob Mayer.
Oh, yeah.
he already like travels with Armed Forces Entertainment and entertains the troops, and he started pitching these murder mystery shows to the armed forces. And I've done a 2-week tour of the Middle East and parts of Africa and stuff, where Eric Woodworth almost got human trafficked in Kenya.
God,
Luckily,
what?
he's very fat, and
Makes it
it
more
was going to
difficult.
take a lot of people to throw him into a car.
Eric Woodworth, he is another great local comedian that I'm familiar with. I used to perform every single week, and he ran a show at the Coco Lounge, which was, for amateurs, but also I met Tommy there. I think that's where I met you. And Rob used to come there before, Rob Mayer, and just tons of, talent.
Mm-hmm.
And then that got washed away by one of the Ellicott City floods.
Twice. It got washed away twice.
It got washed away
once.
Once
and
is
then
enough,
they rebuilt. And then 2 years
yeah.
later,
Oh my gosh.
God flushed again.
And Ellicott City, that was actually pretty tragic because they kept calling the first one like, oh, it's a 1 in 100 year flooding situation. Then, like, what was it? The next year, 2 years later,
2 years later,
right after they had kind of
one.
rebuilt some, and I mean, it washed away, like ripping up pavement down the street. Which I used to go there, like again, every week. There was a huge, and so now I think they're finally recovering from that second one. But Coco Lane itself is no more.
Yeah, the guy's not rebuilding it.
Yeah.
Anything. But now Mike Quinlan every October puts on the Ellicott Silly Comedy Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And he has like 17 shows packed in a week at different venues in Ellicott City.
And that's definitely something to check out. A lot of people come in for that. Ellicott Silly. And that, I think
I hate that name. That's Ellicott Silly Comedy. I don't know why, but we've gotten to an age where comedy has to be edgy and dangerous. Oh, I do comedy. I talk about my dick for 45 minutes. I'm a modern poet.
For however long until they get one of those big hooks out and kind of drag me on the...
Or they ring the gong.
Exact gong show. You're off. You didn't see the red light in the back, so we're just telling you now, you're done. You've been lighted, you're done. But speaking of, comedy and having you here, Tommy, what would you say got you into doing comedy? Like, how old were you when you started, and why did you start doing it?
Look at that adorable child behind you, David.
That's what happens when you have a room full of Legos.
He's playing with Daddy's collectibles. Get off my... You opened the box.
I think we've all seen Lego Movie. And,
so when I was in elementary school, first grade, the teacher asked us, we had to write down what we wanted to do for a living when we grew up. And I loved dinosaurs. I would watch dinosaur movies, read dinosaur books, everything. I had dinosaur toys, bedspreads. I loved dinosaurs, but I couldn't spell paleontologist. So I just wrote comic, and that's just been my trajectory ever since.
Oh, that's good. Now the virtual reality comedy, is that something that you saw someone else doing, or you started that all on your own? Because with COVID, obviously everything's getting shut down all over the place, makes it hard to go out to bars. Well, coincidentally, that's where comedy shows take place.
Yeah.
So it made it really tough on people to try and get out there. And so VR comedy, what is that? How did you come up with this? Like,
I didn't come up with it. I didn't invent it, but I'm more of a Christopher Columbus, where so back in 2020 we were doing Zoom shows, and those fucking suck because they would mute the audience. You couldn't hear laughter or anything.
Oh god, that's tough.
So I absolutely hated them. I got a VR headset. The first time I saw another comedian friend of mine, Violet Gray, had her headset, and I didn't know that the Oculus Quest 2 was an all-inclusive. It's just an Xbox you strap to your head, and it didn't have any wires connecting you to a computer. So I bought one of those, and there was a Facebook group called Displaced Comedians, and it was where all these comedians would go to post Zoom show. Like I did a Zoom open mic in Tokyo. Just to say that I did. I had to get up at 4:00 in the morning to do 10 minutes in Tokyo. And you know who was
It's
there?
on the resume.
There wasn't any Japanese people in this. It was all like there was like an Irish guy. There was another guy that I knew from DC was at this open. So it meant nothing that we
Sure.
were performing. I just got up early to do a Zoom open mic.
It looks good on paper, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, all you got to do now is say, "Hey, we did an open mic in Tokyo."
Yeah,
You know,
I've
I'm
performed in-
international.
I performed in Tokyo server. But so as soon as I got the headset, I went to that Facebook group and I was like, where do I do VR comedy? And somebody was like, you need to go talk to Kyle Render. So I started talking to this guy, Kyle Render, and on the app, there's a free app called Altspace VR. And he runs a comedy club there, and he runs it like a brick and mortar comedy club called Failed to Render. Whereas now in Horizon, comedy clubs are springing up in Horizon, which is this other social VR app, but there's no moderate. Like when you log into Failed to Render as a comic, you go in. There's a bouncer there that's usually dressed like Super Mario. You dap him up, and he was like, "Hey, hey," and then he gives you access. He gives you access to the green room. You go back in the green room where there's comics from all over the world just hanging out, chilling. You're talking, networking, and then the host brings you out to the stage. When they call your name, you go out. I've never performed for less than 40 people that have put on headsets just to watch comedy. So, and if someone gets loud and starts talking, the bouncer, the Super Mario, just fucking boots him from the room. And so, it's run like a real comedy club. Whereas in Horizon is like the Wild West because there's no moderation in any of the rooms. You get up there and people are just screaming at. I have this one friend, Ashley, who went and did a Horizon show. And she was getting heckled the entire time. And she actually asked the crowd, "Are you booing me?" And they were like, "Nah, bitch, we're mooing you a cow." And and you're like, "Holy shit!" So
Because
and then if you say something that people don't like, they'll report you, and that's your Facebook account. So the moderator, you can get banned for saying stuff in Horizon or off Facebook. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, Failed to Render. They run it now. We've once I started doing that, Mike Quinlan approached me for the Ellicott Silly Comedy Festival, and he was like, "Is there any way we can incorporate this into the festival?" So I bought a gaming laptop that could do VR, and we hooked it up to a projector and just logged into the comedy club from the laptop and just projected a view of the stage, and we had a lineup of comics from all over the world come and perform as their cartoon avatars for like 80 people in a parking lot as part of the festival. We got another one coming up in May in Baltimore. We were supposed to have one in DC this week at the DC Improv, but we only sold 3 tickets. So
everyone was just gonna show up virtually.
Yeah, so we're still doing the show virtually, but
Okay.
so 8 p.m. Eastern. But yeah, VR comedy, I totally believe that because we've been in the Washington Post about it. We've been on CNET or doing articles about these comedy shows. I totally believe that it has its own place in the comedy world. I think Zoom will die off because it's like when your child is born with a 6th finger and you just put a rubber band around it until it falls off, and then you tell them about it when they're 30.
Oh yeah, that's what that is.
Yeah.
So, and the Zoom thing, I would agree with you just because you mentioned it when you were talking about Zoom, why it was terrible. You couldn't hear the laughter.
Mm-hmm.
And that has a real effect on comedy. Mm-hmm. Usually, because I know this from you could tell the same joke in 2 different places. If there's a big crowd and they laugh, hugely different from smaller crowd, even if they still laugh. And then if there's no laughter, that makes people psychologically think that joke wasn't funny, even if it was, and it's just because they can't hear the other laughter. So totally important to get that sense of crowd.
Yeah, and you get that in VR.
And I think a lot of it too, and just my 2 cents. I've never done this before, but my 2 cents and what I've
Dave's
seen
hot take
is you really have to be able to hear the laughter so that you're not okay. I'm telling one joke and they're gonna laugh at it, and I'm telling another one, but they didn't hear the first part of that one because they were still laughing at the last one. That was one of the big things. I'm a big fan of the Marx Brothers, and when they made their movies, before they did the movie, they went on show, and they did a live show of the movie that was coming out, and they went to many cities across the United States, and they gauged laughter at each joke, and then they said, okay, when we make this movie now, we need to leave this much space in between the jokes because that's where everybody's laughing.
Huh. That explains the pacing of those movies.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's brilliant.
Well, another thing, when you're performing live comedy, the energy of the crowd is palpable. And if they're not laughing, you're not getting any energy to feed off of. But I mean, if you're telling a dumb joke and they're laughing at it, then you feel emboldened to try to branch out and try new things, do some crowd work here and everything. So it's really the crowd gets out of the comic what they put into the comic. That makes sense.
And also it sounds like with the VR comedy, the one with the bouncer is going to be necessary because even at an in-person comedy show, you have hecklers, and sometimes it's just a regular old drunk person who says one thing and that's all they had to say. Other times it's someone who firmly believes that part of stand-up comedy is someone in the audience that gives a bunch of crap to the comedian, and that's them. That's what they came here for, and they're psychotic.
They always have the excuse, hey man, just helping out.
Oh yeah. Oh, thank you so much, dude. You sitting down there in the crowd being drunk, shouting things during my prepared act. Yeah. Where would I be without you?
Usually when I'm writing this stuff, I'm like, man, I sure hope there's a drunk idiot here to disagree with me.
In fact, I don't even write my own material unless I have someone there to give me a bunch of crap.
There's other big name comics that have become more famous for how they handle hecklers. And what that ends up doing is making those people go to those shows that they can have their moment and get caught on camera.
We're going to get caught on camera, and we're going to be YouTube famous because we heckled Joe Blow Comic.
Someone who's actually talented.
Yeah.
And I guess before we move into the Marvel theme discussion, I'd just like to ask Tommy, influences, any big comic influences, or your favorite comic that you would recommend to other people?
Growing up, I loved Steve Martin, Robin Williams, even Gallagher when I was a kid. My uncle had these 2 Gallagher specials that I would watch. And when I first started out, I dabbled in prop comedy and quickly got away from it. And my comedy career took off after I stopped carrying a Congo drum that could shoot confetti on.
I was going to say prop comedy. I saw a USO show with Carrot Top, and I was like, ugh, Carrot Top. Yeah. I laughed so hard at that show. I was peeing my pants. I was laughing so hard. I was like, holy smokes, this is funny. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's why
I'm good with this now.
Tommy, you know Kevin Lee?
Kevin Lee. I've talked to Kevin Lee.
So he does some prop stuff. He also does like some magic stuff, all kinds of.
He went to Barnum and Bailey's Clown College. So he's classically trained.
One of his favorite jokes, and it's from like way back in the day. I just remember he posts the clip of it every once in a while, but he's in front of like a huge audience and it's a prop gag. And he unfolds like this square, like it's an empty square. And he's like, this is the job I used to do before I was a stand-up comic. And then he puts like one leg through the square and it looks like he's climbing through a window. And it's just like, oh, dude.
I perform with Kevin Lee. There's this comic that books these shows. His name's Irwin. Irwin Loring. And he booked shows in Southern Maryland. And he booked it. I worked with Kevin Lee at a chicken a chicken joint that was maybe held 20 people. It was the smallest place you could possibly imagine doing comedy. And he has a whole trunk. He's juggling bowling balls and machetes while people are trying to squeeze past him so they can get up to get their chicken from the counter. So yeah, he goes hard.
Oh yeah. And I mean, talk about professionally trained. I mean, some of those jokes, like he'll be juggling and then like, actually he's going to throw and people like freak out because it's like, holy crap, those are knives. He's about to, but he's like, comedy show. Gotcha. It is just pretty amazing to be a stand-up comedian, even if you're amateur, but just to go to those places, perform with different people, meet different people. I always thought that was one of the best parts about comedy was like the pre-show and the after show, just getting to hear these different voices and stuff that's off stage too. Like,
Oh
it's a
yeah,
different
the green room, the
beast.
hang,
Yeah.
hanging out in the green room. You're like, I gotta go do this. I'll be back. You hate going out there, especially like if you hear that everyone's in comedy. If you don't do well, there's the term bombing, but we also use the term eating a dick. You're just eating a dick on stage, and when you do a show and you just see all your friends eating a dick as a comic, it's the funniest thing you can watch is to watch them try. There's also the term bailing, where they're just trying anything just to get anything out of the crowd. But then knowing that you're going to have to go up and have your turn, so you're putting on your dining bib. And
It's like, this is fun right now, but
you're like,
set's going to be me in about 8
you
minutes.
usually you get arrogant enough. You're like, I'll get them, and then you don't. You don't get them. You have a horrible set too.
So I was on. Let's mention your podcast again when we get the chance, because I was on. What was that last week? What did you?
You
call it?
were on
Game
Laugh
Night?
Finder Game Night, which was
The Laugh Finder.
When during the pandemic, we used to record in person at Magooby's Joke House. We would play D&D or Pathfinder, and we would have a weekly guest that would come in and sit in for it. Would end up being 2 episodes with a guest. And when the pandemic shut all that down and we started recording digitally, we then made a spin-off show on Wednesday nights just because there was nothing else going on, where we have a guest on, we interview them, and then we play Jackbox games and stuff with them and the audience. So you were on Game Night,
which was a lot of fun. And again, search Laugh Finder to go look that up. They have different guests on, play different games. It is, and you can get in on the games. Like you said, the audience sometimes can even participate, even if you're not like on the live stream. So
yeah, we play Quiplash at the end of every night, and we invite the audience to join us.
Great
and
game.
we used to have a thing where if the audience beat us, if an audience member won, we would buy them a shirt from our Teespring store and send them a shirt. And then 5 people won. I'm like, I'm not doing this. It's like $100 I have to spend.
All righty, we got a comment here from Grant. Good evening, friends. Loving your t-shirt, Debbie.
It's a
How are you
hood, or it's
guys?
it's not a hood. It's a jacket.
Okay, well.
Yeah,
Great
shut up,
top.
Grant. You don't know fashion.
We're having a good time.
Grant. He's always on our shows. Making
Yeah.
Seems like a good guy.
We like
Quality.
Grant. He's a friend of the shows.
Shows up. So when I was on your show, I mentioned I didn't have a chance to show it to you. I mentioned that I did let's see here, video file. Maybe I can find it. A joke about Bill Cosby doing his impression of the Joker from The Dark Knight. And I don't know if you've ever seen it. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, all right.
There's
all right.
Coco Lane.
This
Yeah.
is my impression of Bill
Short
Cosby doing his impression of the Joker from The Dark Knight. You want to know how I got to these scars? Well, my father was a drinker and defeated. And one day he comes home and he says, "The son, why so serious?" And I said, "You just killed my body." And he said, "Let's put a smile on that face." So he takes his knife and he chews up inside my mouth. And I said, "Well, that don't taste like a pudding pop." This is something special. This is just because I feel like it. I'm about to go. My name's Chris Cassidy. It's been great seeing y'all. This is my impression of Bill Cosby doing his impression of the Joker if the Joker ran a sport or a winter apparel store.
Okay.
You want to know how I got these scarves?
Mind blown. Here comes Eric.
There's Eric.
Chris Cassidy, everybody!
And it fits into the theme of the show. I know what you're thinking.
That's Eric
Batman.
before he was white trafficked in Kenya.
But we're both wearing Marvel shirts. He's got Punisher. I'm wearing a Deadpool shirt. That Deadpool shirt says this shirt gets the girls. I loved wearing that shirt because girls would come up to me and be like, does that shirt really get the girls? And then I'd say something like, you're talking to me because of the shirt. So,
So yes.
yeah. You just walked right into that one.
My mom bought me a Green Lantern shirt where it's Hal Jordan, and he's like, flying towards the camera, and it says "Chicks dig the bling." No girl is ever like, oh my god, is that Hal Jordan?
Is that the Green Lantern? Oh man. Well, that's DC anyway. We're here to talk about Marvel.
Yeah.
So, what
Peacemaker's
is your
pretty good, though.
favorite MCU film, or I guess hero? But
Do
you have a favorite?
Of course, I have a favorite.
Okay.
I have a favorite, and it sparks a lot of controversy, but it holds it. Iron Man 3. I love Iron Man 3. It is my favorite Marvel film. I know.
I was hoping you were gonna say 2 because
no. 2
I go
is,
crazy for 2.
You like 2? You big 2 guy?
So yeah, I like a big 2.
I did watch a scene from 2 earlier this week, where he had to he was building the new element, and we're in hardware mode, and he just busted up his house, because that's how I was inspired to watch that scene, because that's how I feel putting in laminate floors in my basement.
We need you.
Yeah, more than you know.
Not that much.
Of course. So,
now,
but for
can
you,
I say this? Can I put this out there?
Okay.
I've seen every Marvel movie in theaters opening weekend on mushrooms. I usually get a small group of comics together, and it used to be where I would just give them mushrooms and we would take mushrooms. But now I've gotten to the point where I make a mushroom tea, and everybody does this mushroom tea, and then we all drink it when it comes out dun 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 dun, and it comes up with Marvel, and that's when we all will cheers each other in the theater, and we slam the mushroom tea.
How long does that take to take effect?
Well, now like I said, I've seen so for over 10 years, I've refined my recipe. So now there's a technique called lemon tech, where they tell you to squeeze lemon on top of your mushrooms, wait a half hour, and then you take the mushrooms. Because if we're getting a little scientific here, so mushrooms have psilocybin in it, okay? And that's what makes you trip. Well, it's not the psilocybin. It's when it's in your stomach and it gets broken down into psilocybe. That's what makes you trip. By putting citric acid onto it, you're already starting to break it down into psilocybe, so it comes on quicker. Okay. So now when I make my teas, I do a 1/16 of a tablespoon of citric acid into the tea to break down the psilocybin. So it'll kick in within 10 to 20 minutes. It kicks in, and then it'll last 4 to 6 hours.
So now,
so it'll get you through Endgame.
Yeah.
Even the longer ones.
Well, we had a buddy get beat up at the beginning at Infinity War, because we were there was a family that was very chatty, and when we're all on mushrooms, and this guy Brock was sitting like on the end of the aisle next to Eric, and this is when Eric weighed 350 pounds. So he was sitting next to Eric. We're all fully reclined. When, spoiler alert for everyone who hasn't seen it, but when Thanos grabs Tony Stark's bladed arm and shoves it into Tony's chest, right? And the whole theater's silent. And this woman goes, grab your shit. We're leaving. I'm getting a refund. And Brock had enough. And Brock says, shut the fuck up, bitch. And then you heard like this kid go, who the fuck called my mama a bitch? You gonna catch these hands after this movie. And like people were, he wanted to beat him up then, but then his friends were like, no, man, wait, come on, the movie. Yeah. So he was like, as soon as this movie's over, I'm beating your ass. So as soon as the credits rolled, this kid jumps into Brock's chair and just beats the hell out of Brock. And then they didn't even wait for a mid-credit scene or whatever. They just ran out.
Bunch of
And,
savages in this town.
So then
I'm
they turn the
telling you.
lights on, and Brock's bleeding from his face, and he stands up and looks at all these horrified families, and he's like, "I did this for you. I did this for you." Yeah. So we don't invite Brock anymore.
And that was even without any of that happening. I mean, Infinity War. I remember the end of my film, you know, because it's opening weekend, and obviously it ends the way that it had to end.
Mm-hmm.
Great choices there, but you just have all these kids
Yeah.
that are watching the heroes disappear, and they just start crying, and I'm just sitting there like, this is perfect. And they're all crying. It's great. Yeah.
I feast on your tears. I love them. They give me power.
Now,
So
you're also-
what do you think about now after No Way Home that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is now canonically the first Marvel film?
Is it? I mean, it's outside.
It's like a character that was established in the early 2000s that got brought into this movie.
Well, Spawn
it's
is
a
about to
character,
come
not
up,
a
right?
movie.
And the lead villain is his villain.
It is his villain. Willem Dafoe did amazing. It's not, but when people say that, it's like, oh, that's now officially the first film in the MCU. I'm like, you can tie it in if you want, but like as far as the MCU is concerned, I don't consider that the first film. You know, that's Iron Man.
Iron Man kicked it off.
And now that they're doing multiverse stuff, there's good, because as amazing as the MCU was, as like one leading into the next, everything like that, it did set up that cookie cutter style, and it's like, you know, it's an MCU, but now they can't not do that. You know what I mean? The multiverse opens that up so that you can tell different types of stories. You don't have to use like the exact same color palette, the exact same step by step. You could tell other types of stories in this wider universe, which I think is also what it looks like DC is trying to do with their Flash opening up their multiverse stuff with different Earths. And the Batman movie that just came out doesn't take place.
Because they're going to have Michael Keaton's going to play reprise his role as Bruce Wayne or Batman.
Actually, I think it's Thomas Wayne. If they follow the Flashpoint, story,
okay,
yeah, then he should be theoretically it should be Thomas Wayne.
Now, Tommy, do you watch? I know this is a Marvel show, but whatever. We're going to talk about DC as well. Do you watch the DC movies?
I consume all geek content.
Okay. And did you have you been watching? I know you saw Flashpoint Paradox, but like all the animated stuff.
Yeah, DC has the lock on animated series, animated films, where Marvel can't quite. They can't make up their mind. DC, they took the Batman the Animated Series animation style, and then they transitioned that into the New Adventures of Superman. And then the Batman, Superman. And so they had this cohesive style that went forth into Young Justice, where it was just a little tweak here and there. Now, I will say live action series, DC series wise, it's hard to get through Titans. I just can't get wrapped up in it. Doom Patrol, an amazing series. Swamp Thing was amazing. It sucks that they blew their budget or in the pilot episode, because North Carolina wasn't going to give them a tax credit or something.
Yeah, that got canceled, didn't it?
It got canceled like 3 episodes in, but it was only because they were promised by North Carolina, where they were filming at, they were promised a tax cut, which would give them the money to make the future episodes. And North Carolina said that they didn't qualify for this tax cut. So it basically just bankrupted the series.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. That was some good body horror episodes in there. That was good.
And that's the thing that DC, if they've had any advantage over Marvel, is that they could branch off and tell different stories. But part of the reason they had that advantage is because they did such a bungling of trying to make their own shared universe, you know?
Yeah.
It kind of forced them into that. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see what Marvel can do going forward. And I think a lot of that's going to happen. We're going to be seeing that with Multiverse of Madness, and maybe even a little bit first with Moon Knight. So we got about 20 minutes left in the show. I say we look at some trailers and get thoughts on these upcoming stuff.
Oh, if you watch the comments too, Grant wants us to talk a little bit about Morbius as well.
Mm.
Well, I
Yeah,
guess we could-
Morbius might be. They're saying there's a very interesting thought that Morbius might be taking place in the Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man universe.
I've heard that. I heard now, of course, rumors abound all over the place with all these things. People just say like new rumor. I just made it up because I thought it would get clicks. You know, like I can't. It's so hard to verify any of this stuff. But it is kind of fun. Like I was having fun with the No Way Home stuff. For instance, this guy below me was like, "There's no way there 3 Spider-Men are going to be in it," and I'm like, "Have you seen the trailers, dude? They got all the villains. Why would they?"
Oh man! So how big was your pop when they showed all 3? Were you like, "Oh my god"?
Yeah, but you know what? I was honestly, because I went to see Venom, the Let There Be Carnage 1st, and you know the mid-credit scene for Venom Let There Be Carnage, it was like, oh, they just tied it to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and they just brought everything together, and it's going to be great. And so you've got Chris up there, and he's saying, "Oh, have you not seen the trailers?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's going to be like Venom, and somebody else. It's not going to be them." And then when honestly, my jaw dropped harder, and I was a lot more excited about not Tobey Maguire and not Andrew Garfield, but Charlie Cox. That's the one.
Oh yeah,
and that's the one that really
that was
I was
awesome.
like,
how did you do that? I'm a really good lawyer.
Did you see that article that he went to go see No Way Home in a packed theater, and it was dead silence when his part came up? Like no one gave a fuck.
I was like opening weekend, and tons of people cheered.
Yeah,
for that part.
we had a bunch of people in our theater go nuts.
So you probably saw it with a bunch of rich Hollywood people that don't.
We don't
give a crap.
We don't watch Netflix shows.
Where's Daredevil? Bring back Affleck.
Yeah, because that's something people say all the time. Is we would rather have Ben Affleck. Oh my goodness.
Well, you're also going to have more multiverse stuff in the Ant-Man. Because isn't that called
Quantumania?
Yeah, Quantumania.
That's supposed to have the first look at Kang. But as far as the Morbius thing goes, that whether it's Andrew Garfield or some other part, that's like Sony now doing its Spider-Verse thing.
Yeah.
You know, like they're still hanging on to those Spider-Man rights, and they're literally just doing the villain because you got Kraven. The Hunter,
saw Rhino in the thing.
Yeah, and the cracks.
Kraven's brother was introduced in Spider-Man Far From Home. Right?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? So the guy that was helping who we thought was Nick Fury.
Oh, okay.
The guy that was like the bus driver and everything. His character is Kraven's brother.
Gotcha.
And he looks him up with the glasses at one point, and yeah, okay. Now I do remember that.
We did get introduced to Miles Morales's
Prowler.
uncle?
Yeah, the Prowler
and
Childish Gambino.
Homecoming.
Although I don't know if I think that was like something that they were like, let's do this just in case, but not like hard confirm it. You know what I mean?
Let's. I think it was a
look. The guy's getting a Lando movie. Let's just see.
I think that was a. We're gonna put it in there just kind of as an Easter egg, and if it goes somewhere, then hey, we could fall back on it and say, yeah, we meant to do it all the time.
That's the MCU Mondays patented boner alert, because we started this show pretty much back when WandaVision was coming out. Back then, the shows were coming out like every Friday, so we figured you'd have the weekend, and we talk about it on Monday. Obviously, they changed that with Loki. It was on Wednesdays, but MCU Mondays, great name. We stuck with it. But the boner alert came to be because, you know, you have this character, Ralph Boner. We didn't know that was him then, but when we first see him, it's literally the casting from, it's the guy that played that here, and everyone's waiting for multiverse stuff to start happening. So everyone's just like, what? Yeah. And then it's
I was like,
no.
oh, mutants are in the MCU.
Yeah. That's what I was doing too. And then it was like, oh, it was a dick joke. Marvel, yeah, woohoo! So I ranted on that for several days, I know, and then eventually we came up with the boner. Another example is actually from Iron Man 3, the Mandarin from that.
Yeah.
Now they kind of walked that back, or at least
Did you see that short?
made it better with Shang-Chi. And yeah, the Hail to the King.
Hail to the King.
Short. Mm-hmm.
And Shang-Chi was one of my favorites of the newer Marvel movies.
Yeah.
In fact, it's probably cracked my top 10.
Leaps and bounds over Eternals, but
yeah. Eternals one of those things
It's
I'm
not
like
hard.
are we
That's
just
not
gonna have to
difficult.
accept that there's a baby celestial hanging out on the planet now? Is that just I'm not going to talk about that. That's
another one.
Weather patterns.
There's a big chunk of him sticking out of the ground, so
Yeah.
you know it's there.
I'm like, you know how I can point out that this movie is ridiculous? I'll just tell you what happened in the film, and it's like that's what?
Yeah.
When you're just describing the film, and people are like, that sounds terrible.
It's like when they were having their the post-credit scene and teasing other characters,
yeah.
and I'm like, who cares? I don't care
Yeah,
what you plan to
Starfire.
do with this.
I just want this to be over, and I don't think I've really.
Yeah. It's
felt
like no
that
one's
way
going to
during a
strap a
Marvel
GoPro
movie.
to a turd and flush it to see where it goes. Like, ooh, will you
What a
stick
journey.
around?
And it's so nonsensical, the plot.
Power dampening collar. Shuts down all mutant abilities. Can't get it off unless you've got a grenade.
Huh. Could have used one of those in the first act.
They keep a monster in the basement, right next to a huge steaming bowl of foreshadowing.
This guy, Cable. He's very short, 5'11", not like in the comics. And if we succeed, we all go home early.
So you use a device to slide through time. I got two charges, one to get me here, one to get me home.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
And it works in that film because they're pointing it out. Eternals is like, I'm amazing. I should get an Oscar. And I'm just like, you're not even well written. Boo.
What about the speculation that Deadpool's going to be in Doctor Strange?
There was speculation that Deadpool was going to be in Spider-Man.
Well, there was a photo with Ryan Reynolds in the Deadpool costume and the woman behind him is the costume director for Doctor Strange. It's the only proof that I have. Oh, I'm also a QAnon believer. Have you guys heard about this? Is Poolanon.
And Debbie,
okay. Yeah, there you go.
You had mentioned that there was a poster where he was in the shards of glass. They had so is it possible? I mean, it's the multiverse. The fact is, like, anyone could show up, or multiple anyone's. You know,
You're gonna have Lou Ferrigno running around painted green and a pair of torn up pants.
Is he still alive?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How's he
Still
look?
around.
How's he?
He looks
couldn't pull it
amazing.
off. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good.
Well, in fact,
Is he still
Incredible
deaf?
Hulk. Yeah.
Hmm.
The Incredible Hulk, Ed Norton, he was in that.
Yeah,
yeah.
but that was like
That was 10 years ago.
It was like
but
a month. That was the same year that Iron Man came out, wasn't it? 2009, 2010,
2008.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, we're all old. We get
Yeah. Which I will say, the Ang Lee Incredible Hulk was beautifully shot. It was a garbage movie, but I really liked the artistic shots and framing of everything.
Well,
Yes.
I like the frame. It looked like a comic book.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
had
yeah.
everything's in the frames, and it would separate it. And it's like, oh, this is like reading a comic book. It's
and
great.
that's difficult to do well because a comic. It's literally, I studied this when I was in college. Semiotics, the study of signs and symbols. One of the things we had to do in that class was read comics because you learn how to illustrate something from panel to panel, why use certain size panels, why have characters like, eye line connecting, how do you show motion in a still frame. But these are all things to do when the picture doesn't move. A movie obviously is a totally different beast. You don't need to show panel to panel because by the nature, but when you try and influence them, it makes people think of that other media. So if you can do it well, it can turn out pretty cool, but it is a difficult thing to do just because it's not by nature the way that it normally happens.
The only other time that I've seen someone try to they didn't really stick to the comics. They just shot it but you've seen Punisher Warzone, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's an episode of How Did This Get Made, which is the podcast where they talk about, and they had the director on, and she said they gave me a script, and I just read the comic book and tried to make it as close to the comic book. And people are like, "This is a weird movie," and I'm like, "I just tried to make a comic book movie."
See, I that's something that's always plagued me, and it goes the same with video game movies. I have yet to see a movie based on a video game that has been any good. And I'm looking at it going, for comic books and for video games, look at the source material.
Yeah.
You have the story there. Yeah. All you have to do is transfer it. Why is this so difficult?
That's what I always thought about the DC live action. I was like, you've got the animated stuff, just shoot it shot for shot live action.
Yeah,
but even still, some of the animated stuff, like the Death of Superman that they did. And I was looking at that because I remember a kid in high school, and I'm like, I'm at the comic book store every day buying the next episode or next issue. And then I watched that movie, and I'm like, oh, God, they ruined it.
Yeah,
what did they do? I was like, you've got it's frame for frame. It's right there. You've got the script and everything.
They got to put their stank on it. Another horrible one was a Killing Joke. Did you see Killing Joke?
Killing Joke. Yeah.
Oh, God, it was bad.
What was the one? Was it Superman Returns? Was that the one where he gets shot in the eye?
Yeah.
They show it
the movie okay. Superman Returns.
Yeah. So I don't have a problem with that scene. But yeah, that movie is just ridiculous because the end of it culminates in like Lex Luthor gets his hands on the crystal that is how Superman created his Fortress of Solitude. And he combines that with kryptonite to create a kryptonite Fortress of Solitude, like island. It's a kryptonite island. And, Superman's weak to kryptonite, so that'll kill him if he gets near it, right? Well, actually, what Superman does is he throws the island into space because... because of the kryptonite. The whole reason that you did the thing with the kryptonite. But after he throws it, he's like, "Oh, now I'm sad and I'll die or something." Oh my gosh!
Yeah. The worst part was that movie was supposed to be the continuation of the Christopher Reeve series,
right? Literally, Superman Returns. Yeah.
And that skipped all of Superman 4, Quest for Peace.
I like Superman 4, where they just had a piece of his hair in the museum that was holding up like a 5-ton, and he just cuts it. He's got bolt cutters.
Okay. Grant said, disappointed no appearance of Blade in Marvel's multiverse via a Deadpool movie. Some people have been saying that in that scene where, the Doctor Strange trailer, there's Patrick Stewart, at least we think it is. I think he's went back and forth on that, and now it's like confirmed that is him.
It's confirmed that it's not confirmed at this point, I think.
Yeah. But anyway, there's a voice. It certainly sounds like Professor Charles Xavier, and so that is leading many people to think like we'll now actually get mutants introduced, which people have been waiting for since. I was thinking possibly the Snap could have had some way of a. I've been waiting since then at least because even back then they own Fox. So
yeah. Everybody's been waiting since the Fox acquisition. They're like, okay, they bought Fox. They're starting work on the new X-Men movie like tomorrow.
Yeah. And so people are waiting to see Fantastic Four. People are waiting to see Blade. That like the still frame of that one shot that looks like one of the guys has something sticking up on his back, which Blade wears that sword straight up.
At the post-credit scene of Eternals, where the Black Knight is about to touch the Blade. That people say that's Blade that talks
to him. Yeah,
that's his voice.
It's the voice of the actor that's slotted to play Blade.
Mahershala Ali, his first name. But he was in like the Green Book, and I think he was actually even in Luke Cage at some point. But
was he Copperhead? I don't want to assume. I'm not putting it out there that's Copperhead.
Oh. That's some Marvel news that's come out. They're dropping all the Netflix shows over to Disney Plus.
Yeah,
they announced that. So
it's
canon now.
If it might be a multiverse thing, it might be a multiverse Charlie Cox
everyone just starts crowing as soon as that news came out. I just see people all over Facebook like, it's canon now. And I was like, easy there.
Yeah, you got one guy.
I was going to say, because, and we've talked about this before. Well, the Ewok movies are on Disney Plus. The Ewok cartoon shows, the droid cartoon shows, is that canon? The what's it called? The 2003 Clone Wars micro series that was replaced by the 2008 the Clone Wars cartoon show.
I never got why dint of it moving. Oh, it's off Netflix and now it's on Disney Plus. Well, now it's canon in the MCU.
Yep, they did.
Why? What?
They're back.
You know what? The X-Men movies are on Disney Plus. Does that make them canon?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, because
if you think the studio would throw us a bone, they can't just dust off one of the famous X-Men. How about that Potts with the giant pigeon wings? What do those do anyway, huh? Carry him 3 feet off the ground to snatch up the nearest muffin crumb? No.
I would, to answer someone's question at some point, I would like to see Deadpool show up in Multiverse of Madness, but I don't need him to by any means. Like, I love
what
Deadpool.
If it's just a fleeting cameo, like a Stan Lee level cameo?
Good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Just don't ruin the next Deadpool movie. Well, how do you feel about the Deadpool movies, Tommy?
I love the Deadpool movies.
Fantastic. Not everyone does. I'm a huge fan myself.
I like that it...
hush falls over the crowd as rookie sensation Wade W. Wilson out of Regina, Saskatchewan lines up the shot. His form looks good. Oh, that's why Regina rhymes with fun.
You were saying,
I love
Tommy?
that at the time when it came out, I felt that movies were starting to fit that cookie cutter sort of thing, and it just sort of broke up the monotony of having I love these breaking the fourth wall. I mean, I've read all the comics, and I would just download just big CBZ files of all the entire run and just read through everything. And when he first announced it was going to be a Deadpool movie, I was like, who is his villain going to be? Was it because he just doesn't have a good foil.
Right.
Yeah. It was like, what are they going to have? Ajax is going to be? Well, yeah. And they had Ajax.
He got his
He didn't have
from
a Band-Aid
dish,
on
though.
his nose. Yeah. Oh, man.
It is.
Superhero. Watch her. He's going to do the superhero landing. Watch him.
Superhero
It's a super
landing.
landing. Looks so cool, but it's so bad on the knees.
Yeah, the humor, the breaking of the fourth wall, the violence and the action. I mean, I remember watching Deadpool 2, and then I got the unrated version, and I was like, holy crap, it's even more violent than the because he goes nuts. So I'm like, the first scene when he's taking down all the different mobsters in all different places, that's like at least a full minute longer in the unrated version with more body parts flying off and all kinds of stuff. And I'm just like,
On the other end of that spectrum, did you watch the one? It was the PG-13 one.
Once Upon a Deadpool.
Yeah,
I didn't watch that one.
Fred Savage.
Go watch it.
Yeah.
Go watch it. I know it's only
good.
PG-13, but Fred Savage makes it all worth it.
That was something that whenever Deadpool comes up and it's like, well, they have to keep it rated R or PG-13. One of the things I like about Deadpool, I think if it's a Deadpool film, it should be rated R if he's the focus, yes. But the thing I like about Deadpool is that he's like, he knows that he's in media, and he's constrained by like whatever. Like he's on an episode of like the Amazing Spider-Man cartoon, but he can't say things that Deadpool normally said. Like he can't even say we have to go kill that person. So he's talking to Spider-Man. He's like, we have to go not alive that guy. And so like, I like that he's constrained by whatever place you put him. And that it is possible for him to still be humorous in those situations. But like, if you want pure Deadpool, you got to give him that rating to go as far as possible.
Now, I know that this is Marvel Monday, but have you guys watched the new animated anthology series from The Boys?
No, I just saw that came out.
Oh man,
my son saw that and he goes, "Oh, that's your show, isn't it?" And I'm like,
don't let your kid watch that."
No,
good the Lord, first episode, because the first episode kind of tricked me because it's kind of like old Warner Brothers type style, and then it gets very gory in the middle of it. And then each episode is a different art style. I think the guy that did Rick and Morty, he does an episode. Highly recommend it. Go
Oh,
check it out.
jeez, Rick, that guy's got freaking laser beams coming out of his head.
Yeah, and Justin Roiland, is that his
Roiland,
name?
yeah.
Roiland. He voices one of the characters, and it's just all right.
He
You're just
also he voiced one of the characters in Invincible as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that show, but there's one episode where they're like visiting this
At the
college.
Oh,
Yeah,
I did see Invincible. I'm
that
ready for
drunk
season 2
guy
of
in the
that.
beginning.
Where's that?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
ready for
apparently season 2 is going to take a while for. I forget why, but I know that like they haven't even started writing it yet.
I mean, that's J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
He's good in everything.
That is true. Gotta get those pictures of Spider-Man. All right. Well, we're at just about an hour here, so I think we're gonna wrap it on up. Anything else, Tommy, that you wanted to mention about?
I think Debbie should really let other people have a turn to talk.
I'm telling you.
She hasn't said a word in so long.
Well, Chris, you haven't ranted about anything, so she hasn't had to bring you back down to earth.
Debbie, what's your favorite Marvel movie?
Don't get me started. There's too many.
Oh,
I love them all.
Yeah, there are some stinkers. There's a few stinkers. Thor: Dark World isn't that good. Eternals,
Captain Marvel.
not good. Yeah.
Actually, I think I'm going to give Captain Marvel another chance. I think I'm going to watch it again.
I don't hate Captain Marvel.
I just concentrate on the younger Fury and Coulson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Coulson
makes it bearable.
Yeah, is Coulson canon? I was gonna Google that the other day.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Is it canon? Because I thought Feige said that he doesn't say it's canon because it robs the meaning of the death of Coulson from the Avengers film.
I could see that.
What do you guys think? Is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. canon?
Why not? It could be part of a different universe. Why not?
It's metaverse, baby.
They tried to be, because it seemed like in season 1 there was an episode where they were cleaning up the mess that Thor left in England after the Dark World.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they tried to tie it into the MCU,
but they did the same thing with Daredevil too, because I know Daredevil mentioned a lot of times about the battle of I live in Hell's Kitchen and we had the
event.
Yeah,
they were so vague about it.
But they were vague about it, but they mentioned it.
Yeah.
If
but you don't see it doesn't go the other way. Like you
Right.
don't see the actual MCU movies referencing stuff that happens in their show. The only actually the only time they do that is Age of Ultron, when Fury shows up with the hovercraft. That's because that tied into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But again, they never mentioned in the film that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did that, so it's kind of like a one-sided thing.
I bet but now the movies will reference the Disney series.
Grant misses me.
Well, now the Disney series were
Marvel Studios, so
yeah. Well, and also that's like literally made to be part of the MCU.
Yeah. All these other shows are just bastard stepchildren.
Yeah, they're like, hey, everyone loves that Marvel stuff. Yeah, we could profit off of that. And then Disney was like, we're making our own streaming service and we're going to profit off of that. Let's collect all this stuff. Yeah, the only reason they didn't do this sooner is because Netflix still owned.
I was going to say they still had the rights
for
to
a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
They would have done this like day one if they could have. It was the same thing actually with the Star Wars films. They weren't on Disney Plus when it first started. And also because the way that Disney had purchased Star Wars was they didn't have the broadcasting rights. That still was with Turner Classic Broadcasting.
Solo and Rise of Skywalker were the only two that were not on when it launched. And I think Solo was actually on Netflix at the time. And then also, but I mean, you go look at it too. Infinity War wasn't on Disney Plus for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they released that, and it was like, oh, I guess I better watch the DVD or my digital copy because.
Well, that's what my film history professor said when I, because streaming, one of the big topics, because this was a couple years ago, but in film history was the arrival of streaming services and what's that going to do to theaters. And then COVID hit, which obviously just exasperated that entire situation. But the fact was, technology was happening anyway, streaming, the ability, because it used to be you had to get a movie to a cinema, you had to have two giant canisters of film that then the projectionist had to, and I know this because I was a projectionist, you had to literally cut them together and put it through a giant thing. That takes a lot more work than I'll email it to you, which is what you can do nowadays. Like you can get that and have it set up all digitally.
Yeah.
So the ability to get it like to people is so vastly farther than it was, 30 years ago, 20, even like 10 years ago. It's just that is improving. And so he even said, hey, these streaming services are great, but if you really like something, you better get a physical copy of it because they are not required to keep anything available for you to stream.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have had Netflix or anything like that for any amount of time, you see that the playlist changes and some things that used to be there are not there anymore. And they're not just going to you don't just get it back, So if there's a movie you really like, don't count on the streaming service to always have it.
I have under my TV is all 10 seasons of Smallville on DVD, and I don't even have a DVD player. I fucking love Smallville.
I like Smallville. It was enjoyable.
Enjoyable.
Well, the last
What
two
the
or three,
hell?
the last 2 or 3 seasons, I was kind of like, you've lost me on this. Getting a little too far fetched. But
one of my favorite parts from Smallville, looking back now, is that there was an episode where the JLA came back from the future to stop a villain that came back, and they were talking to Clark, and they were like, "Look, you become this beacon of hope. The things that you accomplish go down in history." And he was like, "Oh, what about my friend Chloe?" And they're like, "The history books don't say anything about Chloe." And now now you can look back and be like, "Oh, probably because she was in that sex cult that was burning people."
Kiff, we have a conundrum.
All right. We're going to call it here for tonight. Hope everyone had a great time on MCU Mondays. I'd like to thank Tommy Sinbazo, our special guest, comedian, host or just member of the Laugh Finder podcast?
Producer.
Producer.
All the words.
Sounds good.
Except for, no, Ben and I and Dorian. We're the key players. But
so you can find more there at the Laugh Finder podcast. Look it up.
Yeah. You can go to laughfinderpod.com. Check us out. Laugh Finder Pod on Facebook and anything. All your streaming services that you do podcasts. I recommend season 3. Season 3, not all the cast members make it through season 3. There's a real human experience that happens in season 3.
All right.
Yeah.
So make sure to check that out.
Oh, and if you have a VR headset, go to check out the Failed to Render Club on the Altspace VR app. Shows are usually at, if you're on the East Coast, on Ireland, I don't know. Good luck. If you have a VR headset and you're up at 4 a.m, try to catch a show. But you can go to failedtorender.com and check that out.
Failedtorender.com. So Failed to Render for your VR comedy and Laugh Finder podcast for a whole bunch of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you check it out. Look for that. And of course, we'll see you here for MCU Mondays every Monday, 9:30. That's geeknewsnow.net. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.